Our planet is mostly water, but here's the thing. Almost all of it is in the oceans, and that water is salty. Really salty. Meanwhile, billions of people around the world don't have enough clean, fresh water to drink. It's a huge problem. As our world population grows, we need more and more fresh water for drinking, for farming, and for staying healthy. By the year 2050, experts think that 87 different countries will face serious water shortages. That includes places that we think of as having plenty of water right now. So we have to get creative and find new ways to get the fresh water we need to survive. You might look at the vast blue ocean and think, hey, there's water everywhere. Why don't we just drink that? It's a great question. The answer is simple but very important. It's the salt. Seawater has a lot of dissolved salt in it, about 3.5% on average. That might not sound like much, but it's about 4 times saltier than the fluids inside our own bodies, like our blood. Our bodies are amazing machines, but they are built to run on fresh water. Trying to run them on salt water is like putting the wrong kind of fuel in a car. It just doesn't work, and it can cause some serious damage. This difference in saltiness is the key to understanding why we can't just gulp down a glass of ocean water when we're thirsty. Our bodies are constantly working to keep a very specific balance of water and salt inside our cells. This balance is called osmosis, and it's happening in you right now. Water naturally moves from areas with less salt to areas with more salt to try to even things out. When you drink fresh water, it helps your body maintain that perfect balance. But when you introduce a huge amount of salt from the ocean, you throw that whole system into chaos, and your body has to work overtime to fix it. Think of it this way. Your cells are like tiny water-filled balloons. Inside the balloon, there's a certain amount of salt. Outside the balloon, in your bloodstream, there's also a certain amount of salt. Everything is balanced and happy. But if you suddenly pour a ton of extra salt into your bloodstream by drinking seawater, the water inside your cells gets pulled out to try and dilute the salt outside. This is a big problem. Your cells start to shrivel up like raisins because they are losing all their water. This process is what leads to dangerous dehydration, even though you just drank a lot of water. It's a paradox, isn't it? Drinking water makes you thirstier. It started byaden. So, what happens inside your body, step by step, when you drink seawater? Let's follow the journey. First, the salt water enters your stomach and gets absorbed into your bloodstream. Your blood suddenly becomes much saltier than your cells. Remember osmosis? Water inside your cells rushes out into your bloodstream to try to dilute all that new salt. Your cells shrink, and they can't do their jobs properly. This process sends alarm bells ringing all over your body. Your brain gets a signal that says we're dehydrated. Even though you just drank liquid, you start to feel intensely thirsty. Your kidneys are your body's amazing filtration system. Their job is to get rid of waste products and excess salt through your urine. But there's a limit to how much salt they can handle. Your kidneys can only make urine that is less salty than seawater. So, to get rid of all the extra salt you just drank, your kidneys need to use a lot of fresh water from your body to dilute it. Where does that fresh water come from? It comes from the water that was just pulled out of your cells. You end up peeing out more water than you drank, making you even more dehydrated than you were before. If a person continues to drink only seawater, things get very serious, very quickly. The cells continue to shrink and tissues can start to tear. You would experience dizziness, weakness, and confusion as your brain cells lose water. Your kidneys would be working so hard that they could eventually fail. Without enough water, your heart has to pump harder to move your thicker blood around your body, which can lead to a drop in blood pressure and, eventually, organ failure. It's a dangerous cycle that your body just can't win. Drinking seawater is a survival myth. It will only speed up dehydration and its life-threatening effects. This is why people who are stranded at sea are told to never, ever drink the ocean water. It's a lesson we've learned the hard way throughout history. Even if you're surrounded by water for as far as the eye can see, you are essentially in a desert. In a survival situation, it's actually better not to eat any food if you don't have fresh water, because digesting food, especially protein, uses up water. The best bet is to try to collect rainwater or dew. It's all about finding fresh water because salt water, despite being everywhere, is a false promise of hydration that our bodies simply cannot accept. So if we can't drink it directly, how can we use all that ocean water? We have to take the salt out. This process is called desalination, and humans have been thinking about it for a very long time. The ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle wrote about it way back in the 4th century BC. He observed that when you boil seawater, the steam that rises is fresh, not salty. Sailors would boil seawater and collect the condensed steam to get a small supply of drinking water. This basic idea is still one of the main ways we desalinate water today. It's called thermal desalination. Thermal desalination works just like Aristotle figured out. Large-scale plants take in seawater and heat it up until it turns into vapor or steam. All the salt and other minerals are left behind. Then, the freshwater steam is cooled down, and it condenses back into pure, liquid water that is safe to drink. The world's largest desalination plant, located in the Middle East, primarily uses this thermal technology. It's an incredible feat of engineering that can produce over 2 billion liters of fresh water every single day. That's enough to fill hundreds of Olympic-sized swimming pools. The other main method is more modern and is called reverse osmosis. As of 2020, this is the most common method used around the world. Remember how osmosis naturally pulls water toward a saltier area? Well, reverse osmosis does the exact opposite, which is why it has reverse in its name. It uses very high pressure to push seawater through a special filter, called a semi-permeable membrane. This membrane has microscopic holes that are so tiny, they let water molecules pass through but block the larger salt molecules and other impurities. What comes out on the other side is clean, fresh water. Today, these technologies are more important than ever. Around the world, there are approximately 17,000 desalination plants in operation. Together, they provide fresh water for more than 300 million people who live in coastal areas with not enough rainfall or natural sources of fresh water. For many cities and countries, especially in the Middle East, North Africa, and parts of the United States and Australia, desalination is not just a backup plan. It's a primary source of water that allows communities to thrive in otherwise dry environments. It's science and engineering working together to solve a fundamental human need. While turning salt water into fresh water sounds like the perfect solution, it comes with some big challenges. The first one is energy. Both thermal desalination and reverse osmosis require a tremendous amount of power to either heat the water or push it through membranes at high pressure. Much of this energy often comes from burning fossil fuels, which contributes to climate change, the very thing that can make water shortages worse. Scientists are working hard to find ways to power these plants with renewable energy sources like solar and wind to make the process more sustainable. Another major challenge is the waste. What happens to all the salt that gets left behind? It creates a super salty, concentrated brine. For every liter of fresh water produced, about 1.5 liters of this brine are created. Pumping this dense, salty water back into the ocean can harm marine ecosystems. The high salt concentration can create dead zones on the ocean floor, where plants and animals can't survive. Finding better ways to manage and dispose of this brine, or even finding uses for it, is a critical area of research for the future of desalination. Of course, desalination is also very expensive. Building a large-scale plant costs billions of dollars, and the energy required to run it makes the water it produces more costly than water from traditional sources like rivers or groundwater. This cost can make it difficult for poorer countries, which are often the ones most in need of clean water, to afford this technology. The goal for engineers is to make the membranes more efficient, and the process less energy-intensive, to bring the costs down and make desalinated water accessible to more people around the globe. Because of these challenges, it's important to look at other solutions too. One of the most promising is wastewater recycling. Treating and purifying used water from our homes and cities with reverse osmosis membranes takes much less energy than desalinating seawater because it has a lower salt content. This turns waste into a valuable resource. For our planet's future, we need a combination of solutions, making desalination cleaner and cheaper, getting better at conserving the water we have, and being smart about recycling every drop. It's all about using our brains to solve problems. Consider the following. Science.